Hey YouTube, it's Guy, and today on the review table we have the Seiko Alpinist, model number SARB017. The Alpinist is a 38mm automatic Japanese domestic market watch, which features a unique presentation of both gold indices and a handset set against a green dial, and it has an internal rotating compass bezel. Now, while it's not a traditional field watch, the Alpinist has a similar aesthetic, charm, and versatility that you find in field watches, adventure watches, expedition watches. It has that same sort of flair and flavor that kind of reminds me of things like the Hamilton Khaki Field or maybe even the Rolex Explorer, despite the fact that, again, it's not a field watch in the most traditional sense. Now, the Alpinist comes in at a pretty good price point. It can be found online anywhere from $375 to $400 on Amazon and your other favorite watch retailers, be it Joma Shop or Long Island Watch or whatever. Now, before we really get in here and talk about the watch in basically my thoughts and opinions on the design and the aesthetic of it, we'll just go over some basic specifications. Again, like I said, this case is 38mm in diameter, so a pretty good size. It's not exactly a tiny little small watch, but it's not a big overwhelming watch. This watch is going to be right at home on most people's wrists, be it anyone with even a small to medium-sized wrist. The lug width, we have 20mm here where the strap connects, and the case thickness is 12mm is the advertised thickness. To me it feels a little thicker, but 12mm is not overly thick. Lug to lug, from the top lug all the way down to the bottom lug, these dimensions here, I measured it on my calibers at about 46mm. The sapphire, or the crystal on this watch is a sapphire crystal, which is a deviation from the norm for the more affordable Seiko watches, and it's very nice. Now, like I had mentioned, this watch has a very attractive green dial, and we'll zoom in here much closer in a little bit, but yeah, a green dial with the very attractive gold indices for the hour markers, and a gold handset which features a Seiko Luma Bright glow-in-the-dark material. Also, the little pips above the hour markers feature Luma Bright as well. At the 3 o'clock position, we do have a date window. It is white text on a black background. And this watch is 200 meters water resistance, which is achieved because we have a very nice screw-down crown at the 3 o'clock position. There's also a crown down at the 4 o'clock position, which controls that internal compass bezel, and as you can see there, it does rotate as you spin this crown. The watch comes on a brown leather strap, and this is not the original strap that it is currently wearing. This is a loaner watch. A buddy of mine let me borrow it for this review, and I've had it for about a week now. He opted to change out the strap for the strap that you see on here with this very nice matching green contrast stitching. I think that was probably a good choice. Last but not least, specifications. This watch features Seiko's 6R15 movement. Speaking of the movement, we'll cover some of the specs on that before we get into the quality and design discussion. The 6R15 movement, which is found in this watch, actually originally debuted for Seiko. In my research, I found it debuted in 2006. Aftermarket movements can be found, the same movement can be found on the aftermarket. It's an NE15A, so while you probably can't source this movement directly from Seiko, you can get aftermarket versions of it, which are nearly identical with maybe slightly different dressing. Now, compared to the much more common 7S26 movement, the 6R15 is certainly a superior movement. It's a 23 joule automatic bidirectional winding movement, and it features hand winding and hacking, so you can unscrew the screw down crown and hand wind the watch if the power reserve is short, or you wake up in the morning and it's not running. And when you pull the crown out to the second position to set the time, it hacks, meaning the movement stops running and the second hand stops. This movement is not the same as Seiko's other movements, in particular that 7S, because it does not feature a day complication. It only has the date window there. In fact, the complications that come with pretty much every watch that uses this movement is an hour, minute, central seconds hand, and the quick set date. The movement is much more accurate than your more common and less expensive Seiko movements. It is advertised to have an accuracy of no less than minus 15 seconds per day and no more than plus 25 seconds per day. So compared to the other movements, which tend to run negative 20 to plus 40, it's quite a bit more reliable, or accurate, I guess is the correct word. It also features Seiko's Dia-Shock, and if you look at the branding there on the bottom of the dial, it says automatic Dia-Shock 23 joules. What Dia-Shock is, I've found, is basically a feature that makes the watch more resistant to shock, and it has an improved retention for the oils to keep things running smoothly. Also, it is more interchangeable, I guess. It makes servicing the movement easier. Also, they say has dynamic stability. I'm not exactly sure what that means in the marketing jargon for this movement. Maybe depending on the direction that the watch is seated, the position, maybe it's a little bit more consistent. Maybe that's what it means, but I'm honestly not sure. Now, this movement does run at 21,600 vibrations per hour, or beats per hour, and it does have a roughly 50-hour power reserve. So yeah, it's a great movement. It's until we get into those high-end movements and, maybe the Grand Seikos and whatnot, this is, the best movement that you're going to find in the majority of the upper affordable Seiko watches. Now, to talk about the quality and design a little bit, let's first take a look at the case on this watch. This case is a stainless steel case, and it has quite a few polished dimensions. First of all, that bezel is very nicely polished, and of course it's not a rotating bezel or anything, it's just a metal bezel, but all around the crystal and the dial, surrounding the dial, you have this very attractive polished bezel. Then the top of the case, where you have the lugs here, is a sort of satiny brushed finish. Down on the sides, you have another layer of polishing, and then on the underside, the case back mostly, is a brushed satin finish as well. It's a very nice presentation, sort of reminiscent of the SARB033, which I previously reviewed, and you would probably expect that because I guess it's sort of in the same line of watches. This is another SARB model, it's just the 017. The caseback, again, is not a exhibition or see-through caseback. It is just a solid screw-down stainless steel caseback, and you would expect that as well with a watch that has a 200-meter water resist to not have a crystal or see-through caseback. If you're interested in seeing the branding there, right in the middle, instead of maybe a Seiko logo that we would expect, it has the little mountain icon and the word Alpinist. Other than that, made in Japan, Seiko's branding there on the top left, water resistant, 20 bar, stainless steel, the caliber 6R15. So, yeah, overall, that's what we're looking at as far as the case. I guess I should also point out, we have these very nice crown guards surrounding the main crown, but no crown guards surrounding the crown that controls that rotating bezel. Now, speaking of the crown, it is signed with the Seiko S logo, and I did previously mention it's a screw-down crown, and the action, for lack of a better word, it's very good. It's not gritty or overly tight or unrefined. That was what I found to be the case in my SKX when I first got it, was that the threads on the crown where it screws down. It was just kind of gritty and it felt dirty. I had to get in there with some dental floss and just kind of clean up the threads there to get it to feel nice. And maybe this one did when my friend got it and he didn't tell me, but in loaning it to me, my experience with it is that the screw down action of the crown is excellent. Now you can see there's a little bit of a wobble when it's out, even in this very first position. Doesn't seem to be an issue, and it's obviously not at all uncommon to see that in the more affordable Seiko watches. Just not super sturdy. The hand winding action feels very nice. It's very smooth. It's not gritty at all. It's just a very nice, buttery smooth winding action. I don't know if that sound picks up on the mic at all, but a very nice and even and consistent. Pulling the crown out to the first position, of course, is how we set the date, and pulling it out to the second position hacks the movement. As you can see, the second hand stops running. In this position, we could adjust the time. Rotating the hour and minute hands is very smooth and fluid as well, which, you would kind of expect. Now, we also have this crown again down at the 4 o'clock position. No signature of any kind, just a polished end with some nice knurling on it. And by spinning that, you rotate again that inner compass bezel. I'll get the main crown screwed back down. When you're screwing down the main crown, you are actually winding the movement. You can feel the movement wind as you screw it down. Not an issue, just keep that in mind. Don't be surprised if you end up getting the watch like this and you're screwing it back down and you notice screwing it down actually winds it because you're winding it clockwise to get it screwed in. Now, this crown at the 4 o'clock position is not a screw down crown, which makes me wonder, how do they achieve such great water resistance with what I assume might be a potential weak point in the sealing system, but apparently it works just fine. It's a non-issue. The crystal, like I had said, is a sapphire crystal. It does not appear to have any sort of anti-reflective coating on it. I'll try to catch my studio lights in the crystal a little bit. Maybe this one over here, yeah. You can see quite a bit of reflection. It's not terrible, but it would be nice if it were a little less reflective, in my opinion. But at this price point, for everything that you're getting, it's probably a little unreasonable to expect anti-reflective coatings. Other than that, though, I can't complain, and I'm actually pleased to see that it's a sapphire crystal and not Seiko's Hardlex crystal. The dial itself is just this really attractive green. I'm going to get in here real tight and try to show you. It's not a flat green. It's almost got this, as I spin it around, hopefully it picks up on the camera, there's just all sorts of shades of green, and as you rotate it and catching the light differently, it shows almost this, and not a rainbow in the fact that there's a multitude of colors, but there's definitely some gradation going on there, and depending at the angle that you catch it in the light, it makes it look a little bit different, from every angle. You can see how that green is just kind of rotating there around the dial, if you're noticing that, as I spin it and catch the light at different angles. It's really cool, and it's very nice looking. Now on the dial we have these excellent, beautiful applied gold markers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then on the odd number markers, just these little triangular, almost pizza slices, I guess is one way to describe them. They catch and reflect light just right, and it's really a very attractive combination of green and gold. Being as I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and their colors are like a forest green and a yellow. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I just love looking at green and gold. Also on the dial we have the Seiko logo at just below the 12 o'clock position, also an applied marker. And then printed on the dial we have automatic die shock 23 joule 20 bar. There's a very nice chapter ring going around for the seconds scale. You can see where the second hand is now with 35 position, 36 position. you get very little, very, very precise fine hash marks for each second, along with a much larger hash mark. The fine precise marks are for the milliseconds, and then a larger, more defined hash mark for each second itself. Also on the dial, we do have, again, LumiBrite applied at the pips along that chapter ring at the hour position. So it's passing one of the pips. At 2 o'clock, it's going to pass a LumiBrite pip there. It is functional, but not overwhelming. When you're in the dark, you can see the pips, and it allows you to read the watch, but not as big as some of the other LumiBrite markers that you find on other Seiko watches. Now, the handset is also covered with LumiBrite material. The hour hand at the end there on sort of that reverse Mercedes style hand, and then the minute hand has sort of a little double section of LumiBrite applied there, as well as the tip of the second hand. There's also a little skeletonized area of both the hour and the minute hands closer to the central point of the dial, which makes for a nice aesthetic. I like that design choice that they opted to go with there. The entire hands aren't skeletonized, but having that little bit there skeletonized, I don't know, it adds a little something for me. Now, the date window, again, we have white text on a black dial, and it's framed in a little bit of gold. No complaints there. The black sort of might feel slightly out of place. However, zoomed in like this, it's really noticeable. When it's away from your face on your wrist, you don't really notice that it's black and not green so much. I guess maybe if I could make any sort of minor complaints, that might be one, that it just doesn't really fit with that black background. The coloration doesn't match the rest of the watch's aesthetic too well, in my opinion. But again, it's so minor that when it's away from your face and on your wrist, you don't really notice it. It's just zoomed in like this. It's much more apparent. Now, the other main thing to talk about is that rotating compass bezel. And right now you can see up at the 12 o'clock position, we have the north, which is highlighted in red. As I spin it around, you can see northeast, and then east has got a yellow triangle, and so on and so forth. The action of rotating that bezel is very, very smooth. I mean, to the point where I could almost complain that it's too smooth. And by that, what I mean is when I set it north to the 12 o'clock position, which is where I'm going to want to leave it when I'm not using it for a compass, if I even knew how to use it for map reading or anything. It's very easy, though, to just kind of bump it out of alignment. And if you're one of the OCD types like myself, where you like everything to be nice and squared and lined up, you'll look down at your watch pretty regularly, and I think you're going to notice it's like that, where the position on the dial pointing north is just off a hair. Pretty common, like I said, for me to notice that it was misaligned in the week or so that I've had it and just kind of wore it around the house and tried it out, whatnot. But that is your internal bezel compass. Again, I don't exactly know how to use it. I don't know, how to read maps or anything like that. So for me, it's just sort of a point of interest and not really a useful, functional piece of gear or an equipment, I guess. It is what it is. It's pretty nice, though. Overall, the design, it does add to that sort of adventure expedition watch feel. And even if you're not going to use it for, map reading or direction finding, I don't mind it being there. I kind of like it, just, the same way I might like on the flight watches that have all of those slide rules for doing all kinds of calculations and whatnot. Now, again, I had mentioned this is not the original strap that came on the watch. It's branded JF. I don't know what brand strap this is. I didn't notice any brand names on it anywhere. It's a nice strap, and I think the overall sentiment about the strap that comes with this watch is somewhat negative. It's not widely regarded as a particularly good strap, and I've seen pictures of it, and based on what I have seen in photos and what I have read about it on the internet, I think my buddy probably made the right choice in swapping it out for this leather strap with the green contrast stitching. It matches up with the dial. It's really a very nice shade of brown leather, and you know, not a whole lot more to say about that just because I don't have the original strap that it comes on, and I couldn't even tell you what strap this is and where to get it. I just wanted to show you that, you know, think outside of the box when you get watches, particularly if they come on subpar straps or bracelets, that it's really easy to take a really nice piece like this and just bump it up a notch by doing something as simple as putting on a NATO strap, putting it on a nice leather strap, or whatever. So yeah, keep that in mind. So that's basically everything I got for you on the Seiko Alpinist SARB017. Just wanted to take a few minutes and show you this watch. That again is on loan to me from a buddy. I'm pretty impressed with it. Like I said, I've been wearing it around a little bit for the past week, and gonna be disappointed to send it back to him. Alright guys, well thanks for tuning in. Down in the notes below this video you'll find links to my social media, Facebook, Twitter, as well as a link to my Patreon account if you want to support the channel. I'll also put a link to this watch on Amazon if you think about purchasing it. If you go through my Amazon affiliate link, it affords me a small commission, which helps the channel as well. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and post them down below in the comments section. And as always, please like and share this video. I appreciate it, and we'll be back later this week or next week with something else on the review table. I'm not sure what exactly. I got a pretty decent list of stuff to review, so stay tuned for more. Alright guys, thanks a lot. Bye.